It is still dark. There is a woman walking through the back streets of Jerusalem before the sun has come up, and she has not slept. Her shoes are wet from the dew that has settled on the stone alleys overnight. Her hands are full. She is carrying spices, oils, the small bottles a Jewish woman would bring to a body that had been buried in a hurry and not yet properly cared for. The man she is going to finish burying is the man she has followed for 3 years. The man who, according to Luke chapter 8, verse 2, once cast 7 demons out of her and gave her back her mind. The man whose voice she knows, the way you know the voice of someone who has been the closest thing to a home you have ever had. She watched them kill him 2 days ago. She watched the soldiers put the cross in the ground. She watched him say the things he said from it. She watched him stop breathing. She watched them take him down. She watched them put him into a tomb that had been borrowed from a wealthier man because there was no time to find anything else. The Sabbath had begun at sundown that Friday, which meant the burial had to be rushed. The body had been wrapped quickly. The full ritual of spices and perfumes that Jewish women performed for the dead had to wait until the Sabbath was over. She had been waiting for 40 hours to do this one last thing for him. Now it is Sunday before dawn, and she is walking to a tomb to finish saying goodbye to a dead man. Her name is Mary Magdalene, and the conversation she is about to have in a garden with a person she will at first mistake for the gardener is one of the most quietly stunning conversations in the entire New Testament, and it contains 4 words spoken by the risen Jesus that have been confusing readers in English for 2,000 years. The 4 words in the King James Bible are, "Touch me not." In more modern translations, "Do not hold on to me." In the original Greek, what Jesus actually says to Mary in that garden is even more tender than any of those English versions have ever quite managed to carry. And once you hear what he is really saying, John chapter 20 will start to press on parts of your own life that no other resurrection account presses on. Stay with me. Let me walk you through it slowly. She gets to the tomb, and the stone is rolled away. She does not stop to look in. She turns and runs back to where the disciples are hiding, because in her mind, only one thing has happened. Someone has taken the body. Someone has done one final indignity to a man who has already been killed in public. She finds Peter and John. She tells them. They both run back with her. They look inside. They see the burial cloths lying there, folded. And then John writes one of the most quietly devastating lines in the entire gospel. Then the disciples went back to their homes. John 20:10. They went home. The 2 of them turn around and walk back to wherever they were staying, because they do not know what else to do. But Mary does not go home. She stays. She stands outside the tomb in the half-light and weeps. The kind of crying that does not have anywhere else to go. She has lost the man twice now, once on Friday, and again, somehow, on Sunday before the sun was even up. She bends down to look inside the tomb. She sees 2 figures in white sitting where the body had been, one at the head and one at the feet. They ask her why she is crying. She tells them. She has not even processed yet that she is talking to angels. She is too tired and too broken to be impressed. She turns around, and there is a man standing there. The text says she did not know who he was. She thinks he is the gardener, John 20:15. She asks him, with that ragged hope that grief sometimes produces, if he is the one who took the body. "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." John 20:15. And then he says one word, Mary. He does not announce himself. He does not say, I am risen. He does not say, do not be afraid. He says her name. And the moment she hears the way he says her name, she knows. She had spent 3 years listening to him say it. She turns toward him, and in Aramaic, in her mother tongue, she says one word back, Rabboni. John 20:16. My teacher, the teacher who is mine. Not the formal rabbi you would use for any respected teacher in a synagogue, the personal form, with the suffix that makes it intimate. My teacher. She knows him by his voice. And then, the text says, she reaches for him. She has had a 40-hour grief sitting in her chest. She has been carrying spices to finish burying him. She has been running. She has been weeping. She has been mistaking angels for gardeners. And now, in the half-light of a Sunday morning, the man she watched die is standing in front of her, saying her name. Of course she reaches for him. Anyone who has ever lost someone would reach for him. And the next thing he says to her is the line that has confused English readers for 2,000 years. In English, do not touch me. That is not what the Greek actually says, and the difference matters enormously. The Greek phrase Jesus speaks is me mu haptou. The verb is haptomai, and haptomai does not simply mean to touch in the lightest sense. It means to fasten yourself to something, to cling, to hold on with a grip. It is the word you would use for a hand that has closed around something and will not open. It is the word for a person who is holding on for dear life. And the grammar in the Greek matters too. The verb is in what scholars call the present imperative. When you combine a present imperative with the negative me in Greek, you are not saying, do not start doing this. You are saying, stop doing what you are already doing. So the most accurate English translation of me mu haptou is not, do not touch me. It is closer to, stop clinging to me. She has already grabbed him. She is already holding on. And Jesus is not pulling away in distance or disgust or some kind of ritual purity. He is gently, tenderly, with the same voice that just spoke her name, asking her to open her hands. That is the line. Read it again. Stop clinging to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father, but go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. He gives her a reason, and the reason changes everything we usually hear in that scene. He is not telling her she cannot touch him because she is unworthy. He is not telling her she cannot touch him because he is too holy now. 8 days later, in this same chapter, he will tell Thomas to put his hands in the nail prints and the spear wound, and Thomas will touch him without any rebuke at all. John 20:27. The issue is not whether his body can be touched. The issue is what Mary is doing with her hands. She is trying to freeze the moment. She is trying to grab the resurrection the way she would grab a friend she thought she had lost. She is trying to take this Jesus, the Jesus of the garden in the morning, and never let him out of her grip again. And Jesus is telling her that the Jesus of this moment is not the final form of what is happening. There is something bigger coming. The resurrection is not the destination. The ascension is. And the way she is holding on to him would keep her in a garden when he is about to fill the whole world. Not because I am leaving you, because what I am going to is bigger than what you are holding. The Greek word for I have not yet ascended is anabaino. It means to climb, to rise, to go up to a higher place. And in the Gospel of John, The ascension is not just a physical relocation. It is the completion of everything Jesus came to do. The Father and Son language that runs all through John reaches its resolution in the ascension. Until that moment, the work is not finished. And Mary is trying to lock the work in place at the second to last chapter. Let me say this as gently as I can, because the gospel is saying it as gently as it can. There is a kind of love that holds on so tightly it cannot receive what is being offered. Mary did not love Jesus less than the others. She loved him more than most of them. She had followed him from Galilee. She had stood at the cross when the men had run. She had come to the tomb before sunrise because grief had nowhere else to go. Her love is not in question. Her love is the most beautiful thing in the chapter. But her love was about to be expanded beyond anything she could hold in her hands in a garden on a Sunday morning. And the first thing the risen Jesus says to her after saying her name is, "Let me out of your hands so I can fill the world." Now hold that for a moment, because there is one more thing in the scene that almost no one preaches: the garden. The whole conversation is taking place in a garden. John is the only gospel writer who tells us it was a garden. Now, in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden. John, who began his gospel echoing the opening of Genesis. John, who has been laying down quiet echoes of Eden for the last 20 chapters. The first conversation in the Bible between a human being and a serpent happens in a garden, and a woman is the first to listen. And the world breaks. The last conversation in the Gospel of John between a human being and the risen Lord happens in a garden, and a woman is the first to hear. And the world starts to mend. Mary in the garden, with her hands open, is the answer to Eve in the garden, with her hand on the fruit. The first human voice that hears the news of the world being put back together is a woman's voice. And the first sermon ever preached after the resurrection is preached by a woman to a room full of men who had abandoned him. That is the next sentence in the passage. "Go to my brothers," he says. The Greek word for brothers is adelphoi, brothers in the full familial sense, sons of the same father, members of the same household. Read who he is sending the message to: his brothers. The same men who fell asleep in Gethsemane while he sweated blood. The same men who ran when the soldiers came. The same Peter who denied him 3 times by a charcoal fire. The same men who, an hour ago, looked into an empty tomb and went home. After the resurrection, the very first word Jesus uses to describe them is brothers. Not failures, not betrayers, not students who need to be reevaluated. Brothers. And the second thing in that sentence is just as breathtaking. To my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Up until this verse, Jesus has almost never described his disciples as having the same Father he has. He has said, the Father who sent me, my Father. Now, for the first time, after the cross and the resurrection, he says, your Father. The family has been opened. The household has been adopted in. The men who ran are now sons of the same Father. And the messenger he chooses to carry this message is the woman whose word, in a first-century Jewish court, would not have been admissible as legal testimony. The woman who showed up to finish a burial. The woman who would not stop crying outside an empty tomb. The woman who had once been unable to think clearly because of 7 demons in her head. She is the first apostle. The Greek word for apostle means one who is sent, and Jesus sends her. Before he sends Peter, before he sends John, before he sends any of the 12, before the wind on Pentecost, before any of the great sermons we read about in Acts. The first person ever sent with the message that he is alive is a woman whose hands have just been opened by him in a garden. Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord." John 20:18. The Greek word for announced there is from the same root as angelos, messenger. She becomes, in a quiet way the text does not call attention to, the angel of Easter morning, the first witness, the first preacher, the first to speak the words the entire Christian church for 2,000 years will be repeating after her. I have seen the Lord. And the hinge of all of it, between the woman who came to the garden to finish a burial and the woman who walked out of the garden as the first messenger of the resurrection, was 4 words. Stop clinging to me. Not, go away. Not, do not love me. Not, do not feel this. Open your hands. Let me out of the grip you have on the version of me that is 2 days old. There is more coming than you can carry, and the only way you can carry any of it is with hands that have learned to open again. If you have ever held on to something so tightly that your hands could not open to receive what God was offering you next, this story is yours. It might be a relationship that ended, and you have been clinging to who that person used to be before the change, and the version of them that is alive now is standing in front of you, and you cannot see them through the picture of who they used to be. Or a season of life that you loved, and you have been trying to freeze it, and God is asking you to walk out of that garden into a wider field, and you keep going back to the bench you used to sit on. Or the version of yourself that has died, the you of 10 years ago, the you before the diagnosis, the you before the layoff, the you before the divorce, the you before you knew what you know now. And there is a new self being slowly raised, and your hands keep reaching for the old one because at least you knew its name, or even a picture of God that has died. The Sunday school God who was supposed to make all of this easier, the God of the answers you used to be sure of. And there is a larger God walking up to you in the half-light, and you keep grabbing for the smaller one because the smaller one fit in your hands. Whatever it is, the instruction from the lips of the risen Lord, the first instruction he gives to the first person who ever saw him alive after the resurrection, is the same instruction he is giving you now. Stop clinging. There is more coming than you can carry, and the only way you can be ready for it is with hands that have learned to open again. And the moment you open them, you will discover what Mary discovered. The thing you were afraid you were losing was never the whole story. The Jesus in the garden was about to fill the whole world. The chapter you were trying to freeze was not the final chapter. He says your name in the half-light. You turn around. And he is going somewhere. And he is taking you with him. So if this helped you see John 20 in a way you had not seen it before, subscribe for more videos that take the words behind your English Bible seriously and let them press on you the way they were meant to. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, someone who is standing outside an empty tomb in their own life, someone who came to finish saying goodbye to a version of God or a version of themselves they thought they had lost forever, someone who needs to hear their name spoken in the dark, share this with them. They may need to hear what Jesus said to Mary in the garden. The tomb you came to is empty. The one you came looking for is standing behind you, saying your name. Open your hands. There is more coming than you can carry. Stop clinging to what was. He is going somewhere, and he is taking you with him.